We're on the air, everybody. Now calling to order the Thursday, January 25th, 2024 meeting of the Mashpee Board of Sewer Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who has commentary for business not on this agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move they be approved as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Old business, item 1, discussion of the nitrogen reduction project with current 439 and subsequent 1,288 properties.
Thank you,
Jared?
Mr. Chair. So after going through, as I said last week, trying to get my head wrapped around what's going on, basically it comes down to phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 will have 439 connections, as stated in the agenda, and then 1,288 for phase 2. That number is tentative. As we go into the design phase and we narrow in, it can be greater or less. But right now we would stand at a total of 1,727 properties being tied in. That should, in the total plan, account for 1/3 of the unattenuated nitrogen loads that Mashpee is responsible for in the Pompanesett Bay. This is mainly looking at the removal of septics only. There should be additional nitrogen removal, and that will come through like shellfish, fertilizer management, stormwater management. So that number should be increased from the 1/3. We got to remember it's a number that we can't, yes, we could give you a hard, this is how much nitrogen is going to be removed, but you can't really do that because there's a lot of factors in the whole plan, non-traditional or innovative alternative systems. This one might work great, less than 7 milligrams per liter, but the next one might be putting out 75 milligrams per liter, which is worse than a regular septic. So the rough estimate, though, is 1/3 of that nitrogen removal with completion.
I would imagine a big factor is how well people maintain their IA systems and
Any alternative system, it's the buy-in from the community. Like there's several systems out there, like a urine diversion system or something like that, where this person buys it, installs it, and it's working great, and they do everything it's supposed to. They sell the house, the next person comes in and goes, I don't want to use that. And now, so you can't, it's a sliding scale on that number of removal. So, and then there's other factors that can also be done, like through regulation, waterways. When I was on the vineyard, I went out and with the shellfish department, decided I wanted to see what they do. And as they were seeding with shellfish, we watched a jet ski rip through the shellfish beds, and I was a jet ski guy, and I'm like, oh, wow, jet skis. And then she's like, no, that just probably killed 100,000 seeds because it got sucked into the intake, chewed up and gone. And it was like, wow, so we need better regulations on the waterways and things like that. So there's always those factors.
thank you. Questions and comments from the commissioners? Meredith, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment that there was thank you, Jared. That was a good start, a good presentation. And I just wanted to remind everyone that there is a video available from the select board meeting where the person, Catherine Laurent, presented the new stormwater management as well that would be taking place. So I think that will also help to contribute to it. And that the state of the waters that was published by APCC this last month will also tell us where the biggest areas of degradation are, which appear to be the headwaters of the watersheds, and the openings into the bay of the watershed appear both clearer in Rockport Bay and Papaneset Bay. So it would be good for us to keep an eye on the state of the waters reports, as Jared has been doing, and as we can all look at the video of the select board meeting, and also look at the state of the waters for Cape Cod report from APCC.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Other questions and comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to update on the nitrogen management plan. Is this you too, Jared, or is that pretty much a combined?
It was pretty much combined, yeah.
Very good. That's a quick item, too.
Yep.
Item 3, this is also you, and I think what I saw when we met, I really like what you've done with it. Update on documentation of for new and existing sewer commissioners.
Yes, thank you. Meredith, you've already received a draft as well, and what I did was I printed out everybody that draft, and it's not the full draft. This is just kind of to a point to show the progress going forward, layout. I tried to use the CMR format, which is a pretty common format for people to understand. It also, when referencing something, you can get right down to the line. This document, when completed, will have to go before the select board. So first we'll go to the town manager, get his review, then go to the town attorney for their review, and then there would be the select board that approve it. Right now, what you'll see is under general provisions, just laying out authority. Under membership, that's going to get broken down more. I wanted to make sure I put like the chair, vice chair, secretary's roles, clerk role inside there. Duties and powers, that's going to be what I've identified to this point. At some point, there might be additional powers added depending on once the plant gets open. You'll see that most of the functions are evolved around, approving plans and permits as they come forward, which is going to be real soon when we start, looking to tie people in. Going on to the Article 2, open meetings. This is just basically a very summarized version of the open meeting packet that everybody should have gotten when they first came on as members. And I figured I'd just highlight some key points for people. That way, if we're ever in a meeting or a quick question comes up, these are probably your most common and quick reference to. Article 3 then goes into the conflict of interest law, which is another thing that everybody should get when they come onto the board. I highlighted 3 common ones that could potentially that most likely everybody will face at one point or another while serving on a board or a committee. And the whole goal is just to be more aware in the policy. Again, ultimately, you still have to read and pass the training anyways. All these policies that I'm putting in here, or regulations or guides, will also have attached at the back of this document the actual training. So if it's the conflict of interest, I'll have that packet attached to it. If it's the open meeting law, that packet will be attached to the back of it. So that way, if you want more in-depth information, it's readily available. Also, anywhere where you see a chapter or section of the Mass General Laws reference, I will have a master list of those chapters and sections, so you don't have to go digging through the law books or getting on the internet. That'll also be attached to the back. The next section I'm going to go into, which I haven't given you yet because I haven't written it yet, is going to be basically Robert's Rules. And I'm going to try to simplify it so that if anybody's sitting at the chair that day and they're like, oh crap, I've never done this before, they should be able to open it up and go, okay, this is what I need to do. These are, have a motion, a second. What if happens during discussion, somebody makes another motion, which one gets moved first? That type of information. And as well as the minutes, I'm going to put a guideline. I've been in towns where the person taking the minutes is more or less like a stenographer. And then I've been at some where you're like, well, what exactly were they talking about? So, and Robert's Rules does a pretty good job of, these are what these minutes should contain. Obviously, it's going to take a little while to read through, but I figured, at least if you guys have a copy. And any questions, Meredith did this, she had some, comments and questions, and she took in, referenced the article, the section, the line, and it's so easy for me to go back and replace. And I think that layout will be important when we are doing permits, because when I'm working on the sewer regulations, reviewing them and redoing them, it'll be important, like if somebody comes before you and there's a denial, you can, in that denial letter, say, well, in our regulations under construction, you'll see under chapter this, section this, you can't do that. but it also will help applicants who are designing or looking to do it. They can say, okay, this is what I want to do. Oh, can I do it? And hopefully we'll have less denials and more approvals because everybody will figure that out before they even come to the commission.
Outstanding. I think this is a great tool, one for new commissioners coming in, people who haven't served, but even, I think the longer you serve in any given committee, the further away you get from those original rules as habits of other commissioners, people you learn from, get it to a point where it becomes its own called meeting culture.
Yes.
And I think being able to hit the reset button and bringing it back to Robert's rules as it should be is a great way to facilitate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from our commissioners? Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, I don't know when Jared gets a chance to sleep, but he did a fabulous job on this 9-page, very detailed document, and I want to say thank you and congratulations for doing this, because he's covering areas that we didn't even think about to have included in that and put it into the format that makes it very easy to go back and forth to trace. I also need to remind the other commissioners, though, that we did come up with a detailed outline of other topics that might be germane to new people coming on board or things that people might need to read in addition to what Jared is coming up. So I would appreciate if you would give some feedback to me about that, because I haven't gotten any feedback yet. If you need another copy of it, I'll be glad to send it. I sent it before the last 2 meetings. But again, Jared, thank you so much. The work you did is extraordinary.
Thank you. I'm actually using that guideline you put out, and I'm checking the boxes as I'm going through and doing this, so it is being used.
Very good. Other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business and our update from GHD.
Is there a hand button?
Should be on the top.
Does it work?
It is
So?
now, yes. Yep.
You can?
We
Okay,
can hear you.
okay.
How do we sound in Mashpee TV land?
Trying to help. Yeah.
We got a thumbs up.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay. Well, we get to see everybody too. Okay.
It was a great IT day. We should go play the lottery after this.
Last, I don't know if I can move that or not. There we go. Last Monday, I presented something similar to the Board of Selectmen. So I've a couple of meetings ago and last meeting, people here were asking about the schedule on the treatment plant. And I mentioned that I needed to follow the town's lead. So here I am today to talk about that. And I'm basically sharing the same information that I shared with the Board of Selectmen on Monday. And I expect that we're going to have much more different questions and potentially a little more focused questions coming from this group, but bear with me. Okay. So I started by giving them an introduction to the project and reminding everybody here that we've been under contract since October of 2022, and that all the contracts were to be completed by early December, of which there's 3 contracts, 2 with Robert B. Auer and 1 with Waterline Industries. The linear work are on schedule. They should be completed on time. There's no change in that expectation. However, the Waterline contract, which we have mentioned to you, has encountered a supply chain issue with the electrical gear, the motor control centers, which are basically the electrical heart of this plant, are experiencing delay. Then I focused and I presented to the select board what has been done today. And reminding this group here, they have been working since October. They've got the underslab piping in, a lot of the underground piping in. The electrical duct banks are going to be going in this winter. So we're getting the underground work in. The buildings have gone up. This is the process building. The equipment is being placed. The plumbing and piping work is still ongoing. The siding, that was a picture from a couple of weeks ago on the bottom right. Siding is further along, and I believe they're beginning to place some of the windows. They're not really windows, they're translucent panels. If you look back behind the two gentlemen here, it happens to be Scott and Al, two of our people. That's a translucent panel. It's removable. So this happens to be a chemical room that they can remove these tanks in the future without knocking down a wall. The preliminary treatment building is a little further along. It is a smaller building. It's actually got some paint going in, but they're actually setting or installing the equipment in this building. So they're actually placing the equipment, getting it aligned, getting it in place. Not powered up yet, but the conduits are also going on in these buildings, going in these buildings. So as I mentioned, we have a supply chain issue with the motor control centers, or the MCCs. This is a snapshot of the end of the construction schedule. Now, you can imagine the construction schedule itself is quite long, 6 or 7 pages long, and it's interrelated, but the bottom line is where we end up at the end, especially as relates to the town when you're going to be asking your people to hook up. The black lines here was the original schedule. So originally, or by contract right now, we will be substantially complete, meaning that you have beneficial use of the facility by early October, and your final payment or final completion when the contractor leaves the site would be early December of this year. The MCCs actually are a good 10 to 12 months behind what was originally promised. It was supposed to be a 10-month fabrication and delivery. It's closer to, it's over 20 months, okay? But it's not a one-year delay in the project. We're moving from, let me walk you through the startup period. Originally, the startup period was a 90-day period, 3 30-day periods, really, during which your people would be coming online. Not everybody all at once, they'd come on one at a time, but during the first 30 days, you'd be gathering flow. The second 30 days, you would have gathered enough to start up one train, one of the MBR units. That's the biological processes. Biological processes need food. The food comes from the wastewater, okay? And you need a certain amount to keep the bugs alive. And then by the time we got to the third month, we'd have enough wastewater to feed 2 trains, both of your MBR units. And then once those are up and running and established, we'd put them through a 30-day performance test period. I hope everybody can see my cursor. That's right there. You're still getting people online and your flow's still increasing, but you've got enough to get this units tested and established. And then you would be punching out the last 2 months of the project and closing the project out. The schedule has been delayed about 7.5 months. So instead of coming and starting online in June, July, August, you're going to be bringing your people in next year, about this time next year, January, February timeframe, up through mid-April. So you're going to bring them online in the spring. With your performance period being, sorry, my cursor's not working very well, in May, and then you being out of the job mid-July. Any questions on the schedule itself?
I won't rehash all the things, questions you answered at the select board meeting, because I'm sure we all saw that. The one question I did have is, in your opinion, this is a guess, I'm not going to hold you to it by any means. What are there other significant pitfalls that could happen that could delay it further? Or are we at a point where we've seen the delays, this is what it is, and now we know our schedule.
I mean, are you worried that something else might happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I don't know what I don't know. I haven't heard, I have heard nothing. I've asked the pump stations, for example, on the other side. They plan on all their equipment showing up on time. It's not there yet, but it's coming soon.
Did
I've
you
heard
just say
no-
all the components
The
that are going
electrical,
in
the
the
pump-
building are reported in now? We
For-
know when they are.
for the
We have
pump-
new dates if
For
they're
the
just
pump
delayed.
stations, yes.
All the components for the processing facility have been accounted for.
They've all been scheduled, Joe, and they all are reported to be on time except for some electrical gear.
Right. So they're all acknowledged.
Yeah,
In the old days, you'd say they
And
were
we've been through
present or
submittals.
accounted for.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've been through submittals, and none of this delay has been due to the town or the engineering staff or anyone else, even the contractor. This is out of his control. It was a supplier issue.
How much confidence do you have in them delivering the motor control at the time they stated?
You really want my crystal ball, don't you?
We're just looking for an opinion. This isn't something we'd hold your feet to the fire over.
I think it'll happen. I do. I shouldn't promise this, but I'm looking for ways to compress this down.
Our vice chairwoman has a comment. Go ahead, Meredith.
Yes, I want to thank you, Sandy, also for what you had said at the select board meeting, that you believe that it is actually beneficial for the wastewater to be coming through in the spring and being very efficient by coming through in the spring. So the delay, if we have to put a positive spin on it, has a bit of a positive spin. And I thought that the other question that Jared had also answered at the select board meeting is important to emphasize, that the concern about the pumps sitting quiet is not going to happen, that Jared and you also have a contingency plan for being able to have the pumps running so that we don't have to worry about the equipment damaged by sitting fallow. And so I just wanted to emphasize that I felt that the contingency plans that you are coming up with for a very difficult situation is a good idea.
That's right.
And
Thank
I thank you for it.
That's right. So kind of building on what you said, what does that mean to the town? Well, right now they're out there working as they have been. They're installing a lot of the equipment inside the buildings now. The plant work probably is going to slow down. They're going to get to a point where there's no reason for them to be out there, at least in force, until that electrical gear shows up. Once it shows up, there's going to be a lot of activity, because they've got to hook up all that equipment, get it all through its preliminary testing, and get it all up and running. We, the engineer, will kind of be concurrent with that. We're going to slow down. You won't see us. I mean, I'll be around, but you're not going to see the presence that we have on site there now. And we'll be back when they're doing their flurry of activity, and Jared will be there too. So we're all going to be all hands on deck once the MCCs arrive. The collection system, and just note that when you see them go away or slow down or be at minimal staff, they're not abandoning the project. They're just being efficient with their time. The collection system is going to be ready. They're well on their way to being ready. I think at the pump stations right now, the electrical contractor is in there wiring, getting ready to accept that equipment. They're scheduling what's called the factory acceptance test for the PLC, the brains of that. GHD is going to be present to witness that, because we designed your SCADA system and we're programming your SCADA system, so we want to make sure that they talk. It will be ready to activate, like Meredith said, before the plant's ready to accept flow. So what does that mean? That means that